Mario and Luigi is back. The series has risen from the dead thanks to the release of Mario and Luigi Brothership, and I have to say, I really enjoyed this game. The game has a great art style, amazing soundtrack, and of course, killer bros attacks. Bros attacks are what defines the Mario and Luigi battle system for me. Sure, the bros can use our iconic jump and hammer attacks, but the bros attacks are special, more stronger attacks that leave a lasting impact. Today, I specifically want to look at the 10 bros attacks in Mario and Luigi Brothership and rank them from worst to best. Obviously, this ranking is subjective and not a definitive list. If you disagree with my ranking, let me know how you would rank the bros attacks down in the comments, as I would love to see your favorite bros attacks. With that being said, I'm the biggest nub on YouTube, Christendo, and let's rank every bros attack in Mario and Luigi Brothership. To determine what bros attacks are better than others, we must determine what the criteria for this ranking will be. For this, I'm going to be mainly looking at 3 things: functionality, usability, and style. Starting with functionality, this refers to how well a bros attack functions, such as how powerful it is, and if any, what effect it may have on enemies. For usability, I'll be referring to things such as the difficulty of the bros attack, the cost to perform it, and factors such as if they're single enemy or multi-enemy attacks. And finally, style. Does it feel and look cool to perform the bros attack? If so, then the bros attack will most likely get bonus points for that. Now with that out of the way, let's get her ranked. I want to make it clear, just because the bros attack is in the last place doesn't mean I think it's bad. Honestly, I think the handful of bros attacks we have in Brothership are some of the best in the Mario and Luigi series. Starting off in number 10, we have the red shell. The red shell has the bros kicking the shell back and forth, with the final kick being a powerful blow that will drill through a single enemy. This is one of the first bros attacks you'd get in the game, meaning that in terms of difficulty, it will be more on the simple side, as it kind of acts as the introduction to bros attacks for new players. Simplicity doesn't mean it's bad though. It's a good way to ease new players into bros attacks, and it's the cheapest bros attack of the game, only using 4 BP or bro points. This makes the red shell good to use when you're low on BP, and don't want to spend a turn restoring it with a syrup jar. The reason I have the red shell so high on the list though is because that compared to the other bros attacks in the game, it doesn't have much to offer. Sure, it's cheap to use and it's a pretty powerful attack, but it also comes with the downside of only targeting one enemy, making it only really useful in boss fights. It does have a sick final hit animation, however, where Mario will kick it Mario Striker style at the target, giving it some extra style points. The red shell is not at all a bad bros attack. The others are just so good though that this one had to end up in last place. Number 9 goes to the green shell. Much like the red shell, this bros attack has Mario and Luigi kicking a shell back and forth to each other, but rather than it just being directly to each other, they would first kick it at an enemy, and then the shell would ricochet to the other brother. This one is just like the red shell in the sense that it's one of the first bros attacks you are given, but its differences lie in the fact that the green shell is able to target multiple enemies, whereas the red shell can only target one. And while it is a bit more expensive to use than the red shell, using 5 BP rather than 4, the differences is so minuscule, and the green shell can be used in many more scenarios, as you could use it to destroy hordes of enemies, as well as use it to attack a single boss. It also has a similar final hit animation as the red shell, having Luigi kick the shell Mario Striker style rather than Mario, so just like the last one, it gets a few bonus points for style. The green shell is very similar to the red shell and how it works, but I feel it's more useful to use, giving it the edge over its red counterpart. The number 8 spot goes to the Zapator. This bros attack has the bros going back and forth pressing a lever, trying to max out the gauge of a pump to strike all enemies multiple times with lightning. This is another early game bros attack costing 7 BP to use, and as mentioned before, it does strike multiple enemies multiple times. The reason this one is so low for me though is that I just feel that compared to other bros attacks, this one isn't super powerful. Sure, it's useful when you're fighting hordes of enemies and want to eliminate them quickly, but I feel once you get to the point where you unlock more bros attacks that could do the same thing, this one is not as useful. It's not at all bad, however. It's great to use one in the early to mid game, and is one of the easiest bros attacks to learn, with a finishing attack that sends multiple bolts of lightning down on enemies, making it feel pretty cool to pull off. Number 7 is the Bomb Derby. This one costs 10 BP, and has Luigi throwing bombs to Mario as he hits them at enemies. Honestly, this bros attack is probably the toughest one to master. This might be a skill issue on my end, but it took a good amount of time to learn the timing of hitting and throwing the bombs, and even after I got the hang of it, I still wasn't super consistent with pulling this one off. Because of its difficulty, this one is satisfying to pull off successfully, and an excellent attack ends off with a giant bomb releasing rockets to launch at enemies, giving a pretty sick fireworks show. If it wasn't obvious, Bomb Derby is a multi-enemy attack and is decently powerful, but I feel that since it's so difficult to pull off consistently, it isn't super worth using on most occasions, which is why it's so high on the list. Just shy of the top 5 at number 6 is the Jump Helmet. This bros attack costs 9 BP to use, and has Mario wearing a helmet with a spring that he must use to guide Luigi to jump higher and higher, leading to him powerfully jumping on enemies. Much like the red shell, this is a single target bros attack, and while because of that it may be higher on the list, this one is excellent to use against bosses. It isn't super difficult to learn, and is amongst one of the most powerful bros attacks, giving it a huge edge over the red shell. It also has Luigi doing a graceful jump after he lands a successful excellent attack, giving this one yet again some style points. Overall, it's a pretty great attack to use, and is especially good when up against bosses or a single powerful enemy. Starting the top 5, we have Hatch Me If You Can. Costing 7 BP to use, this bros attack has the bros carefully watching an egg that's falling, with the one who has the egg falling in front of them diving at it to hit it back up, and the other bro spiking it at enemies. This is once again a multi-target bros attack, where when after being spiked at enemies, the egg will fly into the air, hatching a Yoshi that will ground pound one of the enemies below. Blow. Honestly, this Bros attack is probably the easiest one to perform, only really having you do a few actions to successfully pull it off, but it's also pretty powerful, making it a super reliable way to deal a good amount of damage. And while it is multi-enemy, it's still effective with a single enemy as well, as since when there is only one enemy, Yoshi's ground pound will always focus on that one enemy. And the finishing attack is great as well, with it including Yoshi flutter jumping and ground pounding enemies, his ground pound giving a sense of power to it, and him just being included in general giving this one extra style points. Overall, this one is an easy but reliably powerful Bros attack you cannot go wrong with using. Yoshi Cannon takes number 4. This one costs 12 BP to use and has the Bros be cloned and stuffed into 8 barrels for each, and you have to memorize which barrel has which bro in it. This is once again a Bros attack that targets multiple enemies, as well as being able to target only one enemy if there's only one present. It can also be both easy or challenging to pull off this Bros attack as well. The patterns of which barrel the Bros are in changes every time you use the attack, so because of this, you could either get a pattern that is super easy to memorize by having each of the Bros' clones be next to each other, or you can get a difficult pattern to memorize because all the clones are scattered amongst each other. Successfully pulling this attack off though is rewarding, as if you shoot all the barrel cannons successfully, all the clones will go into one big cannon that will shoot one giant ball of the clones that will speed their way through enemies and deal huge damage. Obviously, this looks super cool, giving it extra points there, and this attack is both satisfying and consistent to pull off, which is why I put it so close to the top of the list. In our second runner-up, we have Max Mix Vortex at number 3. Costing 14 BP to use, this one has Mario Luigi throwing a fire and ice balls into a vortex, and jumping into it, creating a tornado that can deal huge damage to enemies around. This is one of the last Bros attacks you'd unlock in the game, and because of that, I haven't been able to use that as much as others I unlocked earlier on, but despite that, this one is still great to use. It attacks multiple enemies at once, making it arguably the best Bros attack to use on clusters of enemies because of how much damage it does, and while if you want the vortex to last longer and do more damage by doing a mixture of both fire and ice balls, you're able to use just one of those to create a fire or ice vortex, which, correct me if I'm wrong, can apply the burner free status effect on enemies. This one just looks super cool to use as well, with it using fire Mario and ice Luigi as well as being in a tornado, and all around this is probably one of my favorite Bros attacks in the entire Mario Luigi series. The runner-up and second best Bros attack goes to Conductor Connector. This one is the most expensive Bros attack to use in the game, costing 15 BP, and has the Bros riding the Great Conductor into space with a wire, with the Bros having to try to connect wires to asteroids and then afterwards aiming at enemies successfully. This one, much like Max Mix Vortex, is when you unlock near the game's ending and is amongst the most difficult to fully master, but when you fully understand how it works and can master it, it's probably the most powerful Bros attack in the game, dealing huge damage with the shockwave that attacks enemies multiple times. And like I said, it attacks enemies, making this one effective on multiple at once, as well as effective on single enemies like bosses. This one also, like many of the others in the game, feels super cool to pull off, as you can really feel the power of it when you successfully pull off an excellent attack. All in all, Conductor Connector is a masterclass of a Bros attack, and despite its high BP cost, it's so worth using when you have the opportunity. And the best Bros attack in Mario Luigi Brothership, in my opinion, is Clockout Blow. This Bros attack is Mario using a clock to slow down time, and then the Bros take turns spinning into enemies and whacking them with their hammers. All around, this one is quite the powerhouse. It's great to use to get rid of multiple enemies, as it is a multi-target attack, but it's also amazing when it comes to single enemies and bosses as well, as each hammer attack does a ton of damage. If you pull off this attack perfectly, you can do as much as over 1000 damage to an enemy depending on what level you are, which is an absolutely insane amount of damage for one turn. On top of that, this Bros attack can be pulled off pretty consistently once you understand it, which isn't super hard to understand and learn, and it also, pardon my French here, feels super badass to pull off. It feels like each hammer attack packs a punch every time you pull one off, and the finisher where an enemy is thrown into the air, hit a few times, and then slammed by both brothers to the ground, like there's just no way you cannot feel good after pulling this one off. All around, this is by far one of the best Bros attacks in the entire series, maybe even a contender for the best, and after I unlocked it, it became one of my most used Bros attacks in the game instantly. And that is my ranking for every Bros attack in Mario Luigi Brothership. Are you mad I didn't put the failed hammer attack at number 1 and didn't include it in the list at all? Leave a comment telling me I suck down in the comments, and while you're down there, if you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel, as it helps me out a ton. I really enjoyed my time with Mario Luigi Brothership. If you want to see my thoughts on the game in more depth, as well as the hits and misses, there's a video on screen now that goes over just that, and I think you'll enjoy it. With that being said, I'm the biggest nub on YouTube, Christendo, signing off, and goodbye Nub Nation.